Right then. Hello and welcome to Sports Today. We are hours away from Euro 2020, from the tournament opener, right? It sounds strange when I say 2020 in the year 2021, but imagine as a sports fan, last year, this time, right? All sporting action was cancelled, sporting tournaments were being postponed one after the other, and one of them, of course, was the Euro Championship, which is going to start in Rome in just a few hours. And we're going to talk about that. Of course, the Olympics start in July. Then there's a World Test Championship final between India and New Zealand in exactly a week from now. But again, this is Sports Today. So we are going to talk about all sorts of sports like we have been doing for nearly 1 year now on this platform. European Championships, Turkey taking on hosts Italy, and I have with me three very interesting guests. So I have, of course, Chinmoy, a lot of you would be familiar with on Sports Today with his fitness videos, with his lifestyle mantra. He tells us how he keeps all these athletes in shape, and he has his football with him. I have with me Argo Bhattacharya, who is there glowing with a smile tonight. We'll figure out whether he's an Italian fan or does his heart beat for the underdogs Turkey. And I have with me Rohit Mundaya, who is also part of the India Today.in sports department. So we've got an interesting array of guests, and we will bring to you plenty of color and action through the course of this European Championship. This is very fascinating, Chinmoy. If I can come straight to you, first the format, right? This format was, of course, proposed by Platini about a decade back. He wanted this tournament to be held across the continent. It's being played across 11 cities this time, 24 teams. So that will be interesting. But before we also come to whether the underdogs Turkey can somehow overwhelm Italy tonight, tell us, Chinmoy, take us through a couple of facets. First, I'd like to understand how challenging was it for players? What do you think they would have done psychologically and, of course, physically to keep themselves in shape? Right, mental health is as important as anything else in sports.
First, very warm welcome to everyone, right? And thank you. This is my first show live, and my appreciation. The first thing is that if you talk about the physical perspective, see all the teams, I mean, players, you talk about the leading players, they're playing for their clubs, the national leagues like La Liga, you talk about the Serie A, you talk about the EPL has just finished. So, and they're physically in shape. Rather, I would suggest that some of them are a little bit overcooked in a sense that they are playing back-to-back matches. So I would suggest that they're physically in shape. It's not that there's a long layoff. Last year when the pandemic hit, there was a sort of a hiatus. But if you talk about the current scenario, most of the leagues has just finished. You look at it, the Serie A, Inter Milan has become champion. You go to La Liga, there's Atletico, they have won Man City in England. So they just finished the league. So they're in good shape. Now, coming to your mental aspect, I think they'll be mentally boosted. It will be some places 50,000 spectators there, some places less. So guys like Ronaldo, they need their adrenaline to be pumped once they're there. They all love to perform in front of the crowd that will be here. And talking about the pandemic, the fear, I think that it has reduced across Europe. So the threat, which was looming large before, and that was casting a lot of doubt in the mind of the footballers and all, I think it has lifted. The scenario is much better. The footballers will come with a much better frame of mind, and that's it. I think so far as physical and mental state is or thing is concerned.
No, I get your point, Chinmay, and very well taken points as usual. But I also want to understand, right? There are tremendous health restrictions across the world. Whether you're playing
Right.
an IPL game in Delhi, whether you're playing a Euro opener in Stadio Olimpico in Rome, there are a lot of health restrictions in place, right? Where you're quarantined in rooms, where you cannot move around a lot. Does that ultimately play a part, or do you think that has been over a year that psychologically much more attuned that these stars are? Do you think that psychologically much more prepared like that?
Absolutely, you're right. They have got used to these kinds of things, like the Indian cricketers. You can see that they have got used to certain things. It's all adaptation, right? Of course, all these footballers, the clubs, they have got their own psychology, so they guide them through all these kinds of challenges. But I think they're in a much better frame of mind because, as you know, they all love to perform. They all love to perform. And once these footballers goes out there, I think they forget everything. Because see, compared to the game of cricket, there's a lot of time to think in cricket. Somebody gets out, he's in the dressing room, things like that, and over happens. But here it's a 90 minutes non-stop action. So once you're out in the park, I think there is very little time to think, other than just like Ronaldo, Argo's favorite, just firing it back at the net. I think that's the only thing comes to mind. So I think that once they're into action, and because all of them are playing across different leagues, okay, so I think they're in a better frame of mind. This is my take.
Right, right. And moving to Orgo, Ronaldo is your favorite. Well, you're not going to see him in action tonight. But tell me, Orgo, you're a football fan. You followed football from across the world for many years. Obviously, 25 to 40% attendance at the stadium tonight, which would be about 15 to 16,000 people approximately to support the Azuri. But growing up, who's been your favorite European team to follow? I remember because when you look back at Turkey, first, if I'm not mistaken, the 2006 World Cup, they were just such a revelation. There was like a breath of fresh air, that team. They just came in. Hassan Sars, I remember, with that ball look. He was such a dangerous mover on the field. How has European football shaped your fandom, and who would you be rooting for in this championship?
First of all, when I started watching Euros, Italy was a team which caught my eye in 2000 Euro. Because I am a fan of, originally I am a fan of Brazil, and Brazil lost the World Cup to France in 1998. And then in 2000, if you remember, Italy was the team which went to the finals. And then in the semi-finals, they defeated Netherlands. And I always like goalkeepers. And there was a Italy goalkeeper called Toldo, because
Yes.
we talk about Italy, it's always Buffon, but it Toldo saved three penalties in that game, and that's how I started liking Italy. But then gradually, what happened after that, I started following La Liga, and then I became a Real Madrid fan, and then we had those battles with Barcelona and all that. Since 2006, 2007, I have been watching a lot of Spain's matches. And then when the Spain's golden generation started performing from 2008, then the 2010 World Cup, then the 2012 Euros again, the complete dominance of tiki-taka and that brilliant football which Spain played, I became a fan of Spain as a team, because there were no individual stars in that team. But whenever, and they didn't score many goals also. It was always 7 or 8 or 9 goals, unlike someone like some a team like Brazil, which won the 2002 World Cup, scoring many goals, or Germany 2014 World Cup. They scored many goals, but Spain, when they won the 2010 World Cup, also they didn't score many goals. But the complete dominance over possession, I couldn't ignore a team like Spain. And recently, because I like Chinmada said, I am a fan of Ronaldo, and by being a fan of Ronaldo, I am a little bit biased towards Portugal also. And this year, by the way, Portugal has built a team around Ronaldo, which I don't think has ever happened ever since he started playing major tournaments since 2004. This is a team where there are around 9 or 10 big stars, and they are one of the challengers for the trophy. So I will be looking forward to two teams, Spain and Portugal.
No, and that those are good picks. Although Portugal, of course, belong to Group F, right, with France, Germany, Hungary. That's going to be a potent group. But although also, this is all very well. Again, no surprises there with Kolkata. I have spent so many years there. A Bengali myself, I understand that whole euphoria over Brazil and Argentina, and you remember how the city is decked up when Brazil take on Argentina in the World Cup. But you tell me this, before we go to Rohit also on his favorite teams, on the aspect prospects of tonight's game, how do you see the format change? Because for a lot of fans, for a lot of players, this does mean something. This is going to be truly played across the continent, 11 cities, 24 teams, which will mean more challenges, right? And the format is a little tricky for someone who's just getting himself acquainted to this tournament. For the round of 16, you'll have the two toppers from the six groups, and then the third best teams will be picked up basis the four teams best placed at that slot. So, how do you see this format, and how much more juice and color do you think will add to this tournament?
It's almost like UEFA Champions League because
Yes.
teams have to travel from one city to another city across Europe. So the travel comes in the equation over here, from where to where they are traveling. Also, at different cities, the percentage of fans allowed are different. So in Hungary, I think there's 100% fans are allowed, and Hungary is a team which is in the group of death with Portugal, Germany, and France. So with the home support, two of the matches Hungary will play with their home support. And that would be a great equation to see how this home support eggs on Germany. Because in that group, everybody is talking about Portugal, Germany, and France. But remember, if someone loses or even draws with Hungary, first of all, first and second place will become impossible for them to achieve. Even the four best third place teams which will qualify, they might not finish in that spot. So everybody has to beat Hungary in that place. Also, one more thing: group of death. Everybody is thinking that one of the best teams like Portugal, Germany, and France, one might be knocked out. But no, it's not like that because there's four best third place teams qualifying. You might end up seeing Portugal or Germany, whoever performs a little bit not up to the mark, might still scrape through, like Portugal did in 2016 Euros by finishing third in their group. They did that, so that would be interesting. This format is it. I think it first of all with big matches in that group F, the entertainment factor will be high from the first round itself, and with almost all main teams qualifying, I think it will continue. Also, one more thing: Group D, the champion team, the topper of Group D, will meet the runners of a Group F. So, Group D, there's Croatia and England. Nobody will like to face anybody from Group F because it's either will be Portugal, Germany, or France. So that also adds another equation to this tournament.
Absolutely, and and this also gives a lot more breathing space to the top teams. And imagine France and Germany and Portugal qualify from that group, and then France are one of those four teams which are finishing in that slot. So that's very interesting. And then you have three top teams from the group of death qualifying for the round of 16. That makes matters more complicated and much more colorful in the next stages. But Rohit, you tell me this. There's been talk again, and this looks like a pretty obvious solution looking at that side from Italy and from the combination that they've played. A lot of people believe it's going to be a 4-3-3 combination for the Italians. How do you see them approaching the game tonight, and how do you see this team shaping up against Turkey? You cannot take Turkey very lightly also. Turkey haven't won any international against Italy, but that is not a team that you'd want to take lightly.
Yeah, certainly, and they've stuck to that formation for a better part of Mancini's tenure, and so it's quite difficult to see why Mancini would change that during this tournament, unless of course he's Pep Guardiola managing Manchester City in a Champions League final, in which case he'll change a winning combination, no problems. But they've gone on, if I'm not wrong, they've gone on a 27-match unbeaten run, clean sheets in the last 8 matches. Really no reason for them to change anything at the moment. Turkey, yeah, I mean, as you said, that's true. I mean, Turkey is not exactly a team you would expect to, really pose a challenge to a team like Italy. But then over here, I'm sure Italy will be very careful about not getting off to a bad start, because you have to remember, this is an Italian team that is also trying to prove a point. They did not qualify for the last World Cup. You've not seen Italy in a major tournament for a long time. It's difficult to see why Mancini would change that combination. Really, I think he will just stick to what has been working for them so far. A 4-3-3 would be pretty much what I think he would be going for, at least for this match. Unless, of course, there's a shock result in this match, and then maybe you never know, he might go and change something in the next one.
Absolutely. I know also the thing is, what when we also talk about cricket, we talk about not wanting to change winning combinations. And these are the combinations that have worked well for Mancini's men. Like you mentioned, Rohit, you're absolutely right. This has been a long unbeaten streak for the Italians. Manan Goel has, he's commenting. We're getting some comments actually. A lot of people are saying, hello, sir, good to see you. Hello. Please do bring in questions. We'll be more than happy to discuss questions, stats, points. Manan Goel feels Turkey might be the dark horses this time around. That's an interesting take, given the format. And remember, this is Rohit also to take on from what Orko said so nicely. This format gives a lot of these teams, the top teams, some breathing space, some breathing room,
Hmm.
and you suddenly have there is a very distinct possibility of three very good teams suddenly coming up from Group F and
Yeah.
making things really difficult for the others at the round of 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly, and that's something that they will certainly, the top team certainly will be very happy about, because I guess in a football tournament, in a tournament like the Euros or the World Cup, there are two types of teams: teams that have absolutely no pressure on themselves, and teams that are under a world of pressure. There's no middle ground in these tournaments for these teams. So I'm sure the top teams will be breathing much easier because of that. But at the same time, that's also it's a sort of a tricky situation, isn't it? It's kind of like what, if you go back to what Germany did in the most recent World Cup. The team looked too good to be true on paper, and then they
Hmm.
just got dumped out in the group stage itself. So they should be sort of careful about that. I really don't think that the teams would be going in thinking that, okay, there's one more extra spot over here this time, so we can sort of think about taking risks or something like that. I really don't think so. I really think in these tournaments, teams tend to be trying to play it safe as much as possible. The big teams, of course, the small teams, and I do count Turkey, might be dark horses or whatever, but I do count Turkey in this context as a smaller team. They might be more adventurous with their selection and stuff. It'll be sort of exciting. That first game, certainly Italy versus Turkey, that's a very interesting sort of matchup, because Turkey is a small team, yeah, but it's not a team with small players. There are players like Hakan Kalnoglu, Burak Yilmaz, Cengiz Under, Soyuncu, of course, had a great season with Leicester. They're all players who had good seasons with their respective clubs. So, it'll be sort of fun to see what Turkey do in that match. Italy, of course, historically a good defensive side. This time they might be a bit different. But yeah, it's a sort of an interesting matchup, really. But yeah, the big teams, I really don't think they'll move away from trying to play as safe as possible, especially in the group stages. It'll be a real embarrassment for them if they go out in the group stages, managers getting sacked and whatnot.
No,
So
no.
yeah, that's what I feel.
No, it's fascinating. Also, Chinmay,
Yes.
there's Vaishak Krishnan who's made an interesting point. He says Di Lorenzo has 7 assists this season. Shouldn't he be preferred over Florenzi? If you want to take that, Chinmay, before we also head over to your how you perceive European football, because for old horses like me, I am a very old romantic kind of an Italian supporter, because it's obviously I wasn't born when Italy last won the Euros, but I am that kind of a Italian support. I like the flair of the Italians. I like the charisma about the entire country. So that is honestly how my footballing experience has shaped up. And like a lot of you, unlike both of you on the show, I don't know about Chinmay, although I'm a Brazilian supporter outside of the European Championships. But Chinmay, would you like to take that? Di
Which
Lorenzo,
one?
you see him. Di Lorenzo, Vaishak Krishnan says, shouldn't he be preferred? Shouldn't Di Lorenzo be preferred over Florenzi because he has seven or eight assists this season? I don't know for 7 assists, but it's there about 7 or 8 assists this season. Do you see him
See,
being
see,
favored over?
yeah,
Yeah.
see, to be honest, I think Orgo will take this question.
Okay.
Okay,
Hmm.
but regarding the Italian flavor, you said, see, the flavor. Actually, I always drawn to the flavor of the physique, right? Looks, because I belong to that fitness fraternity.
Right.
Now, I just divert to a question. It has been seen, if you go through the history, who wins the
Hmm.
tournament? The team that consistently not only plays well, but they're able to have that 11 playing member consistently firing, not getting injured. If you go through the records, some team which has got a lot of injury issues, breaks down, changes, a lot of player comes in, they're not being able to sustain the form. So I was just going through it. Who are the guys who are consistently fit? Now I found that every, I mean, top player plays about 60 matches in season for the clubs made together. Now
Hmm.
there are three guys I tell you. One is Atoa Griezmann. He belongs to, we all know, France. Romelu Lukaku, Cristiano Ronaldo, and there's one more guy. Sorry, yes, Karim Benzema. So these are the few guys. Only Paul Pogba picks up injuries quite frequently. So France can't take when this Chelsea guy. So France is one team which has got consistently performing players who have been able to sustain their fitness. Italy also, right? So this is what I was going through from the perspective of a fitness coach. That France last year lost to Netherlands, fine, but They seem to be having a head start. This is what I feel. And coming to Italian flavor, I've been lucky to go to that place. See, Italy, for example, have been more of a trademark of defensive football. But I think Roberto Mancini has transformed that. They have come out of that. There are some very great youngsters. Bonucci, I was reading to. There's Ciro Immobile. He scores quite often. So I think that, like you bring that vanilla flavor, the Italian ice cream everyone is very fond of. Their football will transform, evolve, and we are being able to witness a very changed, new look Italy. I hope, but my favorite, I say, is France, and then comes Spain. I don't know why. Portugal, I'm not really going to buy for. And England, for all things, all fairness, seriousness, they always remain contenders, but they're not being able to clinch the crown.
Right. And also, I'll move quickly to Orgo. Vaishak has actually sort of, I just pointed out 8 assists. He rightly mentioned 7 assists in Syria and 8 assists this season overall. That's what I was talking about. I think it was 8 assists. So that's what Vaishak's point is. I hope I'm getting his name right. Vaishak Krishnan. Orgo, he is pitching for De Lorenzo with 7 assists this season ahead of Florenzi. And why shouldn't he? Orgo, you take that.
Definitely. If I would have picked my fantasy 11 or something like that, I would have kept Lorenzo in the team, because again he is in this momentum, he is in this form, and I feel he can link up very well with Insigne or Ciro Immobile. And because he is in this rhythm, with Marco Verratti in the team again, I think this combination can work for Italy very well, and that will give a shape to their attack. So I completely agree with this suggestion that Lorenzo should play in the playing 11, start for Italy.
Right. And there is also Rohit. There's also this combination, like we've spoken about for Italy, and things are worked out, right? Even it's a young side. But also Mancini has ensured that this experience of youth and experience that we keep talking about in sports, he's held that balance very well, and that could it itself sort of set the tone for the rest of the tournament going ahead into the tournament. And I'll take that from Rohit before we head to the closing stages of this show. Somebody is asking for your favorites for the remainder of the tournament and reasons for it. But we've also almost somehow got an idea of who's pitching in for who. Chinmay and Orgo. Rohit, you take this, and then we'll wrap up the show with our favorites.
Sure. So yeah, of course, the fact remains, of course, that the qualifiers towards a tournament really means nothing. I'll still go back to that Germany example. They were pretty much favorites going to the World Cup because of their performances in the qualifiers. Also, they were pretty dominant in the qualifiers. Spain were pretty dominant going into the 2014 World Cup, if you remember, in the qualifiers, and then again they got dumped out of the group stage. So Italy, yeah, they've been pretty good and everything. They've been pretty consistent. But over here, in the tournament itself, it'll be a different thing. Only time can tell. So far, yeah, certainly Mancini has done that pretty well with the squad. A lot of very promising young talent with a lot of experienced players. With the Italian squad, you've seen historically, at least in the 21st century, at least I can say for certain that there's always experienced players, good experienced players, not just players who are sort of over the hill or whatever. They may be 34, 35 or whatever, but they still remain very strong players, mostly centre backs and everyone. So, that is a pretty interesting stage for Italy to have a lot of young players. Now, that's a sort of an interesting thing. Certainly, that's what sets in apart from previous Italian teams, I feel, in this tournament. But certainly, you can say for certain only when the tournament starts, isn't it? Only when you see what they do throughout, even in the next 2-3 matches.
Right. Now, before I go to Chinmay for his closing comments, I don't know, Rohit, this is a relative, some families, Moyendur Krishna Chandran. He's asking, so obviously he's pitching in for Turkey. He wants to talk about Turkey. He says Soyuncu and Demiral pairing could prove to be a surprisingly efficient backline. Orgo, fair point.
Definitely. The way Soyuncu played for Leicester, and I feel against Italy, Turkey will start with a defensive mindset and then try to hit on the break, hit on the counter, and so their backline will be very, very, very influential. If they can somehow stall the Italy attacks, I feel they are in with a chance to even first of all draw the game, and if they can take their chances, I think they will get lesser chances than Italy, but if they can take their chances, they can finish off their chances. I feel they even have a chance to surprise Italy and win the game too.
Hmm. Fair enough, fair enough. There's always, we obviously got to talk about Turkey as well. They're underdogs, but in sports, you never know, right? You never know what you'd see on a day. Also, Chinmoy, before we just quickly wrap up, Sam Tracy predicts Turkey 2, Italy 3. So that's a very high scoring game Sam is predicting. Tell me, over the last several years, maybe decade and a half, why do we not see very high scoring of games in international football anymore? You don't, unless you're talking of leagues where there's a lot of discrepancy between two teams. Apart from that, you don't really see very high scoring football matches anymore. 2-3, that would be quite a cracker of a match if that happens. Chinmay, your take on that? Why do you not see too many high scoring football matches?
See, it's like tennis. It's like tennis. You can see the difference between the two teams have narrowed so much. Like in tennis, you can see that anybody can on its day take on Roger Federer or Nadal or Djokovic. Same happened, and I can see the clubs. If you see the clubs, a lot of the smaller countries, the footballers from a lot of the smaller countries are playing in bigger clubs. So the fact is that these teams, I mean the national football teams, there is a fair sprinkling of top players from different clubs. So they are well equipped to handle to the top flavor of football. When you reach these Euros, the World Cups, you're facing the best. So these footballers from the smaller countries are used to that. I mean, the competition. So the fact remains that these smaller countries, as you were saying, Turkey, they may look really not so familiar in terms of history, but on its day, they can really turn the apple cart. I mean, they can create a sort of a big upset, as you have seen a lot of the things even in the World Cup. We have seen the African countries like Morocco, Cameroon. They have done so well, beaten Argentina in the World Cup. So, as you said, and it's really fair. Really, some of the smaller countries, who knows that. One of the smaller countries might trigger a sort of upset and get into the. Orgo will better say who is that team really? Who's the dark horse this year? I think Orgo will say better answer it.
That's a good point. In fact, a lot of people are asking us who the champions could be according to sports today. But we'll give our guests some breathing space in terms of figuring out who the champions could be. Let us watch through a couple of these games, and then probably we'll be able to figure it out before punting in right away. But yes, Orgo, before we wrap up quickly, all three of you, who could be your dark horses and why?
I feel there's one team which hasn't been that much talked about, and it's because of their performance only. I think the Netherlands. The Netherlands are a team which used to have a lot of focus on them whenever they used to play major tournaments. But because they couldn't qualify for the World Cup and the Euros last editions, I think people have somehow thought that maybe they are not up to the mark. But there are a few very young players in their team and a few experienced players also who can help Netherlands grow. And with the pressure of their back, I think they can perform well, and they can end up in the final stages, like the semi-finals and finals. I think then they can take it over from there. Then it's one good game, and they can win the trophy even. I think the Netherlands are the dark horse.
Orgo, sorry, Rohit, your dark horse of the tournament.
Well, I don't know if this team can yet be qualified as a dark horse, but this has to be one of the weakest Spain sides I've seen for a long time in going into any tournament. But because they are Spain, because they've got that history and stuff, and they've got promising players. They've not got bad players exactly. They've got sort of promising players who should be playing better. I would call them as dark horses. I don't know if they can yet be called dark horses. I don't know if Spain is past that era, so far past that era that they can be called dark horses for a tournament. I really cannot look past them as a sort of a surprise winner for this one.
I've got a dark horse.
Yeah. Go on.
I've got a dark horse. My dark horse is Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, Eden Hazard if he's fit, Belgium. Trust me, they are the dark horse for me.
And that's a very interesting takes. In fact, 8 Imant, I hope I'm getting his name right. He says Portugal. I don't know if he thinks Portugal is going to be the dark horse. Ironical if he says that. Netherlands is a balanced team. He feels in a counter to what Orgo pointed out. And Rishabh Chatterjee says dark horses for him will be Turkey. So a lot of supporters for Turkey on our comments, by the way. So it just goes on to show you that sports there is always always room for the underdogs, and there is always a lot of support and passion, like we've seen in sports all around, whether it's cricket, tennis, or football, and the Euros will be testimony to all of that. There are a lot of comments coming in. Thank you so much to our viewers who joined in numbers tonight, and of course, thank you to Chinmay, Orgo, and Rohit with their valuable thoughts. I really enjoyed doing this show. It's been a while since I've been on Sports Today. Time to get back with a lot of action, sports, cricket, football, Olympics. This is going to be an action-packed few months, and of course, the IPL to resume in a few months from now as well. Thank you so much. We'll of course keep bringing back a lot of stuff to you on Sports Today. Boria with his exclusives, with his analysis, news breaks. I'll be here with shows on Euros, on the World Test Championship, and of course we'll start building up to the Olympics very soon. So this is Sports Today. This is where you get to see everything on sports, right? Not just cricket, not just international football, but of course we'll give you a lowdown of India's Olympic preparation and India's build up to the Olympics, as of course focus on the World Test Championship final, which will start in exactly 1 week from now. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports Today on this special show. This, of course, will be plenty more to the Euros. Have a very good evening and stay safe. Take care. We'll join you back tomorrow. Thank you so much.